So review for 7.2, you're going to graph 2 divided by x. The x that is on the bottom cannot be equal to 0. So it means that our constraint is x equals 0. You can do 2 points or numbers before 0. So that can be -1 and -2. After 0, that can be 1 and 2. When you find the y, you're going to plug this here -2. 2 divided by -2, which is going to be -1. 2 divided by -1. 2 divided by -1 is going to be -2. 2 divided by 1 is 2. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. The asymptote for this one is, since there is no translation, so it's going to be x equals 0 and y equals 0. Domain also all real number except 0. Range all real numbers except 0. Y equals 0, x equals 0 are the asymptote. Plot the points -2, -1, -1, 2, and the graph of this one should be this curve, 1, 2, 2, 1, and they're going to be a graph. So the final graph of 2 over x is this one. For number 2, the value that you cannot have for x is 0, because when you plug 0 here, it will make the denominator 0. Asymptote is x equals 0, y equals 0, which is this line and this line, which is the original y-axis and x-axis. The value that you're going to choose for x left of 0, you can choose -1. You can choose here -2, but if you choose -3, it will just help us get the number that is without decimal, because 9 divided by -3 would be -3. So 9 divided by -3, you're going to get -3. 9 divided by -1 is -9. And when you put 1 and 3, 9 divided by 1 is 9. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. So our points are going to be -3 and -3, -1 and -9, 1, 9, and 3, 3. For domain, you can have all real except 0. Same thing, you can have all real except y equals 0. Now is the graphing part. When you graph this -3, -3, so that's going to be this point, and this is going to be -1, -9, this point. Combine the 2 points, you're going to get the graph. For 1, 9 is this graph, this point, and 3, 3 is this point. So this is the graph of 9 over x. For number 3, you're not taking x equals 0, but you can take a number that is left of 0 and right of 0. -4 divided by -2 would be 2. -4 divided by -1 would be 4. -4 divided by 1 is -4. And -4 divided by 2 is -2. Asymptote for this one is x0 and y0. All real number x is not equal to 0. Now we are going to plot these numbers, negative 2 comma 2, negative 1 comma 4. So you're going to get this graph, 1 comma negative 4 and 2 comma negative 2. Since it's a negative in front, so it's going to be an opposite quadrant where you're going to get the curves. It's going to be an opposite quadrant, then a positive sign. For question number 4, you're gonna make sure that you do not take x value that makes the denominator 0. In this case, what makes the denominator 0 is x equals 0. So you should not take x equals 0 in your x value. That is also called your asymptote. So asymptote is the x equals 0 value from the bottom. Asymptote is also for y is the number that is added or subtracted next to the fraction. In this case, the asymptote is positive 2. So y equals 2 is going to be your asymptote for y. Whatever you get for the asymptote, you do not include that in your domain. So the asymptote is x equals 0. It means that domain should not take x equals 0. And range should not take x equals 2. The two values you're going to get on left of 0 is negative 1. You can take negative 2, but it will give you a decimal. But if you take negative 3, it will give you a whole number. So you take negative 3, negative 1, 1 and 3. Okay, so when you put x equals negative 3, you're going to get here is 3 divided by negative 3 plus 2. 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. When you plug in negative 1 for x, you got here is negative 3 divided by 1 plus 2. That's negative 3 plus 2, which is negative 1. 3 divided by 1 plus 2 is 5. And 3 divided by 3 is 1 plus 2, that is 3. The asymptote for y is y equals to line, horizontal line. And then you're going to plot these points. So the points are going to be negative 3 comma 1 and negative 1 comma negative 1. So you're going to get the graph 1 comma 5 and 3 comma 3. For number 5, you cannot have x equals 0 because that is from the bottom will make the denominator 0. Y equals negative 1 is going to be your y asymptote, and you graph the y asymptote is a horizontal line. The points that you're going to take left of 0 is negative 1 and negative 5. On right of 0 is 1 and 5. When you plug it in, you're going to get 5 divided by negative 5 minus 1. So that's going to be negative 1 and negative 1, which is negative 2. 5 divided by negative 1 minus 1. So that's going to be negative 5. Negative 1 is negative 6. 5 divided by 1 minus 1 is 4, and 5 divided by 5 minus 1, which is 1 minus 1 is 0. So for domain, you can get all real number except x equals 0, and for range, you cannot have negative 1 for y. When you're going to plot negative 5 comma negative 2, this point, negative 1 comma negative 6. Combine these points to get one side of the graph, 1 comma 4 and 5 comma 0. You're going to get the two sides of the graph. So for number 6, the bottom factor is x minus 3, and you cannot have x equals 3 for bottom value because it will make the denominator 0. The two left number you're going to take to make table is 2 and 1. When you plug 1, you're going to get here is 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2 for y value. When you plug positive 2 for x, you got 4 divided by 2 minus 3, which is negative 4. When you put 4, you're going to get here on the bottom 4 minus 3, which is 4 over 1. That's 4. And when you plug 5, you got on the bottom 4 divided by 5 minus 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Asymptote are going to be x equals 3 and y equals 0. These are the same number. You should not take it into domain. So for domain, you cannot have 3 and you cannot have 0 for y. When you graph the x equals 3 line, it's going to be a vertical line. And when you plot, you're going to get 1 comma negative 2 and 2 comma negative 4. Combine this to get the graph. 4 comma 4 and 5 comma 2, the other side of the graph. To graph number 7, you're going to see that x plus 4 is not equal to 0. So it means you should not take x equals negative 4. You can take the numbers before that. So you can take is negative 5 and negative 6, negative 3 and negative 2. When you plug it in negative 6, you got negative 1 over 2. When you plug negative 5, you're going to get negative 1. When you plug negative 3, you're going to get positive 1. And when you get negative 2, plug it in there and you got positive 1 over 2. The asymptote are going to be the numbers that are x is negative 4 and y is 0. For domain, x should not be negative 4, y should not be 0. The asymptote x equals negative 4 is going to be a straight vertical line. And now you're going to plot the points. Negative 6 comma negative 6 comma negative half, negative 5 comma negative 1. And when you connect these points, you're going to get a graph that is a curve. Similarly, you're going to graph negative 3 comma negative 3 comma positive 1 and negative 2 comma half, and that's going to be your curve. Number 8, you're going to not have on the bottom x equals negative 3, so that's where you're going to not take negative 3. You can take two values before that and two values after that. When you plug it in negative 5, you got 1 over 2, negative 4 here, that would be negative 1 over 1, so positive 1, negative 2, you got negative 1 over positive 1, which is negative 1. And when you plug negative 1, you got 1 over 2, negative 1 over 2 actually. Range, y should not be equal to 0. For domain, x should not be equal to -3. You graph these two asymptote, and when you graph number 8, when you plot the point -5 comma half and -4 comma 1, this is the curve. -2 comma -1, -1 comma half, so this is the graph. You do not take in domain x equals -3, and for range you do not take y equals 0. For number 9, the asymptote should be x equals 5, and you should not take that into domain. You cannot take the table value x equals 5, so you can take 2 left of it and 2 right of it. Graph the asymptote and plot the points. You're going to get the curve like this. So for number 10, 4x plus 5 divided by x plus 5. So first x plus 1. First you're going to turn that into the form of a over x minus h plus k, which is this form. So you're going to divide here is 4x plus 5 divided by x plus 1 multiplied by 4. You got here is 4x plus 4. Sign change, you got 1 as your remainder, and you're going to make it look like this one. So you're going to write this as remainder over divisor plus quotient, where your asymptote is going to be y equals 4 and x equals -1. The transformation is 1 unit left and 4 unit up. So 1 unit left and 4 unit up. You make a graph of the parent function. So the parent function was 1 over x, and then move the graph of parent function to 1 unit left and 4 unit up. For the parent function 1 over x, you always get the point as 1 1 and -1 1, and get the graph like this. But this 1 1 point is going to move 4 unit up, 1 2 3 4 unit up, and 1 unit left. So my point that I'm going to start is with from here. So my graph is going to look like this. Similarly, this point is moved 1 2 3 4 unit up and 1 unit left. So